And yo, my whole clique bout it. We take yours while you bout it. I'm just gonna step out the road, wanna crowd around it. You can see me on Optimum TV. Go in the bathroom, turn the light out, scream Bloody Mary. 1, 2, 3. She ain't your usual friend, but I can set you up like Hydra, walk straight at the end. I'm done with ice and chunk.
Ladies and gentlemen, introducing first, accompanied by Jasmine. He weighs in at 285 pounds. He is from Lafayette, Louisiana. Red Dog Beno. Ladies and gentlemen, accompanied by his valet, Stevie. He weighs in at 240 pounds from West Monroe, Louisiana, the mighty Shedman.
And welcome back to NWA Southwest Wrestling here from Fort Worth, joined by one half of Team Extreme, also one half of the Texas Tag Team Champions, Khris Germany. Chris, nice to have you out here. Obviously, a lot on your mind tonight.
Well, let's get one thing straight right now. That's cutthroat Khris Germany to you.
All right, cutthroat Khris Germany. It's kind of you to come out and also add the color commentary on this match here. Got Shedman and, of course, Red Dog Beno, who I am not going to get close to, but I'll tell you what, the young lady out at ringside there, Miss Kitty, is definitely somebody that I'd like to get close to.
Well, you know, all these women are always knocking on Team Extreme's door, but, you know, we got to be careful who we're seen with.
So, in other words, that it does not qualify Team Extreme material?
Well, it would take an extreme talent, let's just say, to become a member of Team Extreme.
I don't know about you, Chris, but I'll take your leftovers. In the meantime, these two guys right here, obviously two big, muscular specimens up in the ring. Obviously, Shedman, you can tell he spends a lot of time in the gym working out.
Well, that's true, but you know what they say, the gym doesn't mean anything if you can't wrestle. But these are two tough competitors from the state of Louisiana.
Shedman, of course, a very popular wrestler here with the people in Fort Worth. And now a headlock for Red Dog Beno. 6'3", 285 pounds from Lafayette, Louisiana, and a big takedown.
These guys, I don't know. I haven't seen either of these fellas wrestle in quite a while, but I'll tell you what, they're a couple tough competitors, and I think either of them could probably get in the ring with Team Extreme.
Shedman throws Beno into the ropes, and a takedown. Beno into the ropes again. Shedman up over, and a drop kick, and down goes Beno to the mat. And a takeover.
That's incredible.
Another arm drag.
These guys are on top of their game, I'll tell you that much. These guys right here, this would be a main event in any venue in the world.
Chris, how do you feel, obviously, the ladies out here ringside, how do you feel about the valets? I noticed that you guys don't have any females in your corner.
Well, Team Extreme's gone through their share of managers and valets, but as far as I'm concerned, I know that I can trust the Death Valley Demon, Kit Carson, and Kit Carson knows that he can trust cutthroat Khris Germany, and that's it. Nobody else.
Speaking of Kit Carson, I guess kind of a grudge match with Jimmy James, two guys who know each other very well.
Jimmy's got a few mental problems, and you know, he's had his problems as far as hospitalization and time that he's had to take out of the ring to take care of some social problems. but as far as I'm concerned, that man's a loony, and Kit Carson's going to take him for everything he's got right tonight.
Shedman twisting on the arm there of Beno, who's trying to get to the ropes, and now he'll have to break. And referee Rick Manning is going to let him go. And a reverse Shedman into the ropes, and a miss, and Shedman ducks out of the way.
Whatever it takes to win. That's a man right there that has trained his valet and trained her well.
Talking about Jimmy James earlier, obviously a former member of Team Extreme.
That's true for a short time. Jimmy was a member of Team Extreme. However, due to his problems, we'll just leave it at that, we had to expedite him from Team Extreme to cover our future endeavors for Tag Team Gold.
Beno continues to pound away. Shedman into the turnbuckle, and the back is beginning to bother Shedman, who's really been taking a workover here by Beno.
What a bill out of the corner. Incredible. These are two top-notch competitors right here.
Both about the same weight. Shedman, 260 pounds. Red Dog Beno, 285 pounds. Both from Louisiana.
Both ex-football players, and I know both spend an enormous time in the ring, both with the weight and training in the ring, because they're both very young competitors.
Beno trying to stretch the arm of Shedman. Referee Rick Manning asking Shedman if he will submit, and obviously that's not going to happen. Beno continues to pound away on the back now of Shedman.
The whole problem with that is he would have had him with a submission hold, but he didn't have it locked in hard enough. If they'll just lock it in, he can get him to submit.
Into the ropes, Shedman, and he picks him up. And Beno, what a belly-to-belly, big slam to the mat. And a 1, 2, and only 2. And Shedman is able to get that left arm up.
I believe that referee was a little slow with that count. What do you think?
It looked to me like it was all right. Referee Rick Manning, you're talking about one of the finest referees, not only here in NWA Southwest, but one of the most respected referees anywhere in the country, Khris Germany.
20 years in the business. This man right here, this referee has had 20 years in the business, and he's a top-notch referee.
And once again, a 2 count, and Beno is upset with referee Rick Manning, feeling it is a slow count. And Manning tells him what for.
That's Rick Manning's only problem, is he is a slow counter.
Here's a roll-up, 1, 2, and once again, just a 2 count, and Kitty is getting excited over at ringside.
Well, do you blame her? That man's getting the crud beat out of him.
Well, I would get excited if she would come over here and sit with us. And a 2 count once again, as Shedman is fighting for all he has.
If he's not able to make a comeback, this thing's going to be over and over quick.
Beno has continued to pound on that back throughout the match, and you can feel Shedman now.
Here it comes. What a suplex.
And he'll roll back 2 and nearly 3, but once again, Shedman able to get that elbow up.
Just get the shoulder up, but that's all it takes. Both shoulders aren't down, it's not over.
And he's climbing to the wrong corner now. And in the meantime, Jasmine pulling on the neck and had him by the hair.
That's a good valet right there. That's a woman who knows what she's doing.
That's also called breaking the rules, too, Khris Germany.
If the ref doesn't see it, it's not breaking the rules, hot shot.
And I guess that's part of the Team Extreme rule?
Whatever it takes to win, whatever it takes to win.
Shedman continuing to fight. And once again, referee Rick Manning is warning Red Dog Beno. And what looked to be like a chokehold there. And the crowd now starting to really give it up for Shedman, and he continues to pound away. A kick to the midsection by the Shedman. Oh, and what looked to be a low blow by Red Dog Beno.
I wouldn't say that was a low blow. I'd say that was just about right.
Well, I don't know what you were watching there, Khris Germany, but it looked to me like that was below the belt.
I didn't see any call by the referee, did you?
I'm sure you did, and I did not there, but referee Rick Manning was distracted. by Kitty. And
what a distraction.
Yeah, you couldn't have said it any better. In the meantime, Jasmine continuing to pull on Beno, and of course stretching the legs. He's got those legs wrapped up, and Shedman is in all kinds of trouble.
That's a good submission hold he's got right there. Personally, I'd be using the ropes myself. She wouldn't have to do anything.
NWA Southwest Wrestling, of course, every Friday night here at the beautiful Texas Indoor Speedway Arena in Northeast Fort Worth. Bring the family, tell the neighbors. It's cheap, and it's good, exciting action. You get to see guys like Team Extreme, one half, of course, of the... how did you say that earlier?
That's Cutthroat Khris Germany.
Cutthroat Khris Germany. In the meantime, now what do we have here? Jasmine continuing, and she's got those knees to the back of Shedman. She's got something in her hand there. Referee Rick Manning did not see it.
Shedman right back into the barrage of boots.
Well, I'll tell you what, this Beno is one tough character.
He's a tough man, and was a heck of a football player in his time.
And once again, 2, and almost 3. Once again, gets the shoulder up, and Beno is really upset, Khris Germany, as he feels that referee Rick Manning is giving a slow count there.
Well, all I can say is these are two fine athletes, but not quite the caliber of Team Extreme.
I thought you would say that. And wow, look at this! Up in the air! And what is that? A version of what would you call it?
I believe that is a version of the DDT.
A different version of the DDT, different than I've ever seen. But nonetheless, effective. Shedman is going to climb. It looks like he's going up to the top rope.
High-risk maneuver right here.
Wait a minute. No, wait a minute. Oh, no.
And that's why they call it high risk, boys and girls.
And Jasmine grabbing the leg of Shedman. And once again, Shedman, it looks like his back is injured. Kitty is in extreme. And referee Rick Manning is calling for the bell. And wow, we've got the valets involved. Shedman trying to pull Kitty away.
Gosh, let them go at it, boys. Let them go at it. Come on, give the crowd what they really want to see.
And Beno just taking all that Beno has to hold Jasmine back.
I think that's a good match. That should be the match. That should be the main event here next Friday night.
Boy, Khris, I'll tell you what, I'd pay to see that one.
I wouldn't quite pay to see it, but I'd watch it all the same.
I figured so much. Didn't even offer to buy me a drink. Khris Germany, we'd like to thank you for coming out, your expertise tonight. And I guess I should wish you best of luck, but I won't.
I don't need luck, and it was your pleasure.
Ladies and gentlemen, one half of Team Extreme, and of course, one half of your Texas Tag Team Champions, as I was corrected earlier, Cutthroat Khris Germany. We're going to be right back with another match right after this.
See ya.
On their way back to the World Wrestling Federation.
Oh, sexy boy.
Arena, which is the Texas Indoor Speedway Arena in North Richland Hills, Texas, just northeast of Fort Worth. And we are every Friday with bell time at 8 p.m. We've got a great match for you here tonight. We've got Chad Hart, the youngster, 205 pounds out of Dallas, Texas. He's taking on one half of the Texas Tag Team Champions, Kit Carson, out of Denton County, Texas. And wow, for making his NWA Southwest debut was Chad Hart. And he may have bitten off a little bit more than he can chew, I think, with Kit Carson, one of the top stars. That's quite a task for making your debut in the wrestling league. Of course, Chad Hart, son of Texas wrestling legend Gary Hart, a manager for many years and actually a wrestler for a little bit too. And a throw by Chad Hart. Chad Hart getting the better of Kit Carson early on in this match. And Khris Germany runs into the ring. Khris Germany being Kit Carson's partner, one half of the tag team champions also. And he gets a clothesline for his trouble, and he scurries from the ring. I don't think Khris Germany will do that again with Chad Hart. Chad Hart showing us a little something early in this match. Of course, Chad Hart, trained by his father, Gary Hart, brought him into the world of wrestling. Gary Hart known for many years. Gary Hart's actually been around. Referee Rick Manning warning Gary Hart. Referee Rick Manning knows well the types of deeds that Gary Hart has been known for in the past, and telling him to kind of watch that. He's not going to stand for it here in NWA Southwest. Kit Carson grabbing the left arm of Chad Hart. Chad Hart trying to kind of flip his way out of it and gets the arm of Kit Carson. As you might have saw early in the match, Kit Carson wearing a not-so-complimentary T-shirt in reference to Chad Hart. Of course, I guess you couldn't expect Kit Carson to be into any artist that professes peace and love for one another. Kit Carson's disposition reminds me more of the mosh pit at a Guar concert. Chad Hart taking the armbar in control of this matchup thus far. We'll probably see a lot of good amateur wrestling from these two, some good holds, throws, and mat takedowns. Kit Carson, of course, was an amateur wrestler for 8 years in Illinois and actually won the Illinois state title at one point in his amateur career. Of course, a lot of times, you know, when Kit Carson and Khris Germany Team Extreme, when they bring up the tables and the barbed wire and the chairs, you wouldn't quite think that amateur wrestling was involved anywhere there. But Kit Carson, when he gets down to it, is a pretty darn good wrestler in the ring, technically speaking. Of course, Kit Carson, 11 years pro. Backs Chad Hart up into the ropes. What's he going to do here? Clean break? No. Gives him the shot to the chest. Of course, he does have a 5 count in the NWA to break it when he does have a wrestler in the ropes. So it is perfectly legal what he's doing now. And referee Rick Manning not getting him to break it up because he really can't do anything at that point. Nice exchange in the body press by Chad Hart. 2 count only. And Kit Carson calling for a timeout. Chad Hart smartly moves in on Kit Carson, fires away with those right hands. Well trained by his father, Gary Hart. Oh, but he runs right into the big boot from Kit Carson. Kit Carson, of course, the veteran. You're going to see a lot of that in this match, would be my guess. You know, Chad Hart's been in wrestling a little bit more than a year. Kit Carson's been in 11 years, and he knows the tricks to kind of fool the young, you know, not really rookie because he's been in over a year, but definitely a relative newcomer. And he knows what to do to kind of sucker him in, playing a little bit of possum and then landing the big boot right in the midsection. Hard suplex by Kit Carson. Of course, Chad Hart giving away about a 20-pound weight advantage to Kit Carson in this match also. Once again, you see Gary Hart. What a legend this guy is in the sport. He's been in the sport over 30 years. In fact, I don't necessarily remember, but I know that Gary Hart once managed the Spoiler in 1968 when the Spoiler was the NWA North American champion. So Gary Hart has wrestled a lot of wrestlers in the National Wrestling Alliance through the years. And now that the National Wrestling Alliance is a viable entity once again, you see Gary Hart back on the scene. Not a surprise. Only this time, instead of bringing, like in the past, he's kind of famous for bringing in kind of the foreign menaces. He's the man who first brought the Great into Texas and the United States, brought the great Muda to the United States, now bringing his own son into the NWA. Great belly-to-belly suplex by Kit Carson. Chad Hart might be wondering at this point, why in the world did I sign on for a match with Kit Carson for my first match in the NWA Southwest? Whoa! And Kit Carson grabs Chad Hart by the legs and pulls him up, throws him down to the mat. Quite a bit of elevation there, and what's Kit Carson going to go for here? Grabs kind of an armbar chinlock combination, kind of a modification of a camel clutch. As once again we look over the shoulder of Gary Hart, who's both the father and manager of Chad Hart. Now Kit Carson goes cross faces into Chad Hart, pulls him into the camel clutch. Chad Hart kicking the feet. I don't know if he can get in the ropes from this position. Kit Carson hammering him with those cross faces. Kit Carson grabs the arms, stretching out Chad Hart. He's really putting a stretch to those back muscles of Chad Hart. And what can Chad Hart do? He can't get the ropes. Kit Carson lets the move go. Now puts him in a full Nelson on the mat. Face first in the mat is Chad Hart. Once again, fans, we're at the Texas Indoor Speedway Arena in North Richland Hills, Texas. We're here every Friday night. There's referee Rick Manning. Rick Manning, one of the top referees in the Southwest. There's a guy who's been in the business 21 years himself. Between Rick Manning and Gary Hart and Kit Carson, we're talking about a combined of 60 years of ring experience. Kit Carson going for the back body drop. Chad Hart trying to bring him over. Two count only. Gets him down. Oh, and Kit Carson taking the boot to the back of the neck of Chad Hart. Carson bringing him back to the ropes. Oh, fires the right hand into the midsection of Chad Hart. Forearm to the chest and the big chop. Chad Hart fires back. Big clothesline by Kit Carson spins Chad Hart around with the impact of that blow, but a 2 count only. Not even a 2 count that time, and Kit Carson grabs the chin lock. Gary Hart. That brings back a lot of memories now. I don't remember Gary Hart from the 60s and 70s. I only know his reputation from them, but I remember back in the early to mid 80s, Gary Hart, a lot of people thought of him as kind of a, I don't know, kind of a two-faced backstabbing menace, and those were his friends that thought that of him. Fans, of course, have taken to him as of late. Well, he's a little bit more laid back now. He's got a son out there, and Gary Hart, I spoke to him earlier in the locker room, and you know, he's got a pretty even disposition compared to the Playboy Gary Hart days. Whoa. Oh, and Chad Hart had Kit Carson scouted there, threw him into the ropes. Carson went over the top, running to the other turnbuckle. Chad Hart cut him off with the clothesline. That's one advantage about having a father like Gary Hart and a manager like Gary Hart, is Gary Hart is the kind of guy that's going to take the tapes of an opponent. He's going to sit down, watch them all, try and pick up the weaknesses and nuances of the opponent, and scout them out and let them know. So I'm sure Gary Hart saw that Kit Carson, a lot of times when he gets that whip into the rope, he likes to try and do the flip over and run the other turnbuckle. But Chad Hart knew exactly what he was going to do at that point and cut him right off. Kit Carson down on the floor. Kind of a hard parquet floor, no mats down here at NWA Southwest, and he's up on the top turnbuckle. What's he going to do here? Kit Carson challenging him to jump down on him, saying, come on, boy. Diverts his attention to Gary Hart, and look out now, Chad Hart from the top rope, the double axe handle down on Kit Carson. Kit Carson got distracted by Gary Hart, and that's another advantage to having a man like Gary Hart up there. Gary Hart, being the 30-year veteran, knew exactly what he was doing. Had Chad Hart set on the top rope, diverted Kit Carson's attention. And down came Chad Hart with the double axe handle. Oh, backbreaker out on the floor by Kit Carson. And what's he doing here? Jump onto Chad Hart on the floor. Sorry, fans, for a second. Kit Carson getting up in my territory in the announcer's booth. Had a run for high water there for a second. A spectacular senton dive onto Chad Hart to the hard parquet floor here at the NWA Southwest Arena. Kit Carson asking a fan to move off his chair if he could so kindly so he can bash Chad Hart's head into that chair. Of course, Kit Carson, actually a very popular wrestler in NWA Southwest. And the fan says, "Here, take my chair, Kit Carson." Well, I'll tell you what, though, a lot of the fans, you might not think with some of the tactics you see from Kit Carson and Khris Germany, Team Extreme, that they would be so popular. But in reality, they are one of the most popular duos in the entire NWA Southwest. Probably some of the same people cheering for them are the ones that go down to the Speedway, not necessarily to see the driving skills of the racers, but to see a car slam into the cement wall. But there's definitely a market for it, ladies and gentlemen. People like the style of wrestling that Kit Carson and Khris Germany bring to them. Chad Hart, Russian leg sweep onto Kit Carson. 1 count, 2. Kit Carson kicks out. Now, this match has been going for a little bit, and Chad Hart, a lot of observers thought before this match coming into it, even with the presence of Gary Hart, Kit Carson, the 11-year veteran, one of the top-ranked contenders for the Texas heavyweight title, that Chad Hart, wasn't really going to be able to hang too long with Kit Carson. But he's been showing us something in this match thus far. He's taken everything Kit Carson has dished out and come back fighting. What's he going to do here? Snaps the neck over the top rope is Chad Hart. Chad Hart definitely quick in that ring. Kind of a, high-flying style. I mean, Kit Carson wrestles similar style, but Chad Hart, whoa, and the missile dropkick off the top rope right into the chops of Kit Carson. And Chad Hart kicks himself back up. Definitely an agile youth, this Chad Hart. And he's got Kit Carson down on the floor reeling. Of course, the partner of Kit Carson, Khris Germany, sent back to the locker room by Rick Manning. Hopefully we won't see his presence in this match. And as I said earlier, we have been seeing, outside of the ring stuff, we've been seeing a lot of good technical mat-style wrestling from both these individuals. Kit Carson, of course, prefers the no disqualification, no holds barred style of wrestling. Kit Carson grabs onto the rope, look out. Kit Carson gets caught by the same move he laid on Chad Hart earlier in this match. Stuck in the corner, 2 count. Of course, Chad Hart had his feet in the ropes anyway, so he wouldn't have been able to get the 3. Chad Hart with the whip into the corner, Kit Carson. Oh, and misses with the knee. Kit Carson able to keep enough of the senses together to get out of the way of that attack from Chad Hart. And stomp into the midsection. Interesting story on Kit Carson also. Like I mentioned, he had been wrestling in Illinois. He was an amateur wrestler there and did some professional wrestling up there. Whoa, and Kit Carson with the waist lock and the German suplex drops Chad Hart on his neck. He dropped him right on his neck. And Chad Hart is laid out. This has got to be it. Oh, and Chad Hart kicks out. How can you want any more after a move like that? Kit Carson, Chad Hart's been hanging in there, but Kit Carson's really been laying a beating to this young man. But he just keeps coming back for more. He's tenacious. And the power bomb. 1, 2, 2 count only. Chad Hart kicking out again. As I was saying, Kit Carson then traveled down to the Dallas area, hooked up with an old name you might know, Killer Tim Brooks, trained with with him for a little while and then got into the ring wars down here in Texas. And that was about like 10 years ago, and Kit Carson has been a top star on the Texas scene ever since that point. And now he's one of the top stars at NWA Southwest. 1 count, 2. Chad Hart kicks out. Chad Hart, you got to give it to him. Kit Carson's giving him his best, and Chad Hart just keeps kicking out and fighting back. Of course, as we mentioned, Kit Carson and Khris Germany do hold those Texas Tag Team titles. They are Team Extreme, as you can see by reading the butt of Khris Germany. Extreme. We see some of our fans here at NWA Southwest. Always a fun time on Friday nights out here at the Texas Indoor Speedway Arena. We've always got a great lineup of matches. Exciting wrestling like you're seeing here every week on our television show. Whoa! And Chad Hart kind of using a Team Extreme-like maneuver with the highly technical low blow to Kit Carson. I don't care how big you are, how much you're outweighed, a move like that is going to slow you down. Chad Hart grabbing the hand and twisting it of Kit Carson. Whoa, tiptoeing over on the top rope and dives off with a Hurricane Rana onto Kit Carson. Beautifully executed. Although I think Chad Hart may have hit his head on the way down on that. Of course, Chad Hart being a little bit taller, 6 foot tall. 1, 2. Kit Carson has leg draped over the rope. Being as tall as Chad Hart is, when you're trying to execute that Hurricane Rana on a man who's got a few inches on Kit Carson, there's always the danger of snapping your neck back on that. As he did there, but I think more damage was done to Kit Carson. He goes for the pin. 2 count only. Kit Carson reverses it and gets the 2 count only. What a hard-fought match we're seeing here this week on NWA Southwest Wrestling. Chad Hart and Kit Carson have been going at a tooth and nail for quite a while now. Bulldog by Chad Hart, and Chad Hart keeps firing back. I'll tell you what, we thought earlier in this match that it was all over for Chad Hart, but he's coming back, and he seems to be getting stronger as the match goes on. 2 count after the Bulldog.
Off the rope. Drop the big one. Hey, Chad, mount and go.
There's Gary Hart telling Chad Hart to drop the big one. Chad Hart up on the second rope, walking over the second rope, very nimble wrestler with the big elbow. I don't know if that caught Kit Carson in the throat or if that caught him in the jaw, but either way, Kit Carson is reeling. 1 count, 2 count only. I thought that might have been it. Chad Hart really, walking the ropes, hitting the high-flying maneuvers, and that's what he's got to do, when you're 6 foot, 200 pounds in there against a veteran. Whoa, and the Fez press by Chad Hart. Beautiful executed Fez press by Chad Hart, and he's pounding away with the right hand under the head of Kit Carson. Maybe Gary Hart knows exactly what he's doing. Can you imagine if Chad Hart gets a win over Kit Carson? That'll propel him directly into the top 10 for the Texas heavyweight title. Once again, for Chad Hart, it's great to have someone like Gary Hart Jr. negotiating for you also. It makes it easier to get the top-notch matches. I mean, you don't generally walk in to a league and get a match that could propel you into the top 10, and that's exactly what Chad Hart has done. Rick Manning up to an 8 count, but Chad Hart grabs the leg of Kit Carson. What's he going to do here? Looks like both men exhausted from the battle so far. This has been a great match so far. We've seen a lot of great in-ring action, a lot of great mat wrestling, a lot of high-flying action. We've seen some out-of-the-ring action. We've seen it all in this match so far between Chad Hart and Kit Carson. And he pulls him in somewhat of a modified scorpion sharpshooter type maneuver. Been trying to put the pressure more off to the side. Kit Carson not giving up. Once again, fans, this is your host, Johnny T, here at the Texas Indoor Speedway Arena in North Richland Hills, Texas. We're here every Friday night, and Kit Carson reverses it. Chad Hart gets to the ropes. We're a long ways into this match, ladies and gentlemen. Both men beaten and battered, reversing sharpshooter scorpion type maneuvers. Kit Carson with the backbreaker into Chad Hart. What's Carson going to do from here? Carson showing some dexterity of his own, jumps up to the ropes and gives the big splash onto Chad Hart and gets only the 2 count. Chad Hart just keeps kicking out. Interesting note on Chad Hart, he has held in his first year of wrestling the World Wrestling Council out of Puerto Rico and held their light heavyweight title. Slammed to the mat by Kit Carson, climbs the ropes. Kit Carson, no stranger to the high-flying maneuvers himself, and hits the big splash, but I think Chad Hart might have got his knees up on that one. I'm not sure. Both men felt the impact of that move. 1, 2 count only. Chad Hart barely kicked out of that one. I think Kit Carson smells blood here. Chad Hart kind of reversed it with a Hurricane Rana type maneuver. Wasn't able to fully get the move on Kit Carson, kind of bashed his own neck once again. And again, I think it's just the fact that both men at this point in the match have got to be very tired. These guys have been going at it for over 20 minutes. Near fall by Hart. Schoolboy by Chad Hart. 1, 2, but he rolls Kit Carson up right into the ropes. And to me, that's more of a rookie mistake. You don't see Kit Carson going for the pins on Chad Hart when he's in the ropes. Is he going to do, what's he going to go for here? Looked like he was trying for the Tombstone Pile Driver. Chad Hart gets the reversal. Tombstone Pile Driver by Chad Hart. 1, 2. Oh, we could have had him, and once again, kind of the inexperience of Chad Hart showing. He may have had Kit Carson for a 3 count, went for it, didn't quite have the right position, so he came up off him. Referee Rick Manning, of course, required to stop the count and start over at that point. So he got a combined of 3, but it was a 1 count. He stopped, and he got a 2 count. Whoa! DDT by Kit Carson, and this could be it. And it is. 3 count. Your winner, Kit Carson.
Deal with it.
Hey, Fort Worth area wrestling fans, the legendary NWA presents Dan the Beast Severin and other WWF and NWA stars on Friday, January 22nd at the Texas Indoor Speedway in North Richland Hills. Tickets are now on sale at all Albertson food stores throughout the Metroplex. Only $16 ringside, $12 general admission. The NWA is back with hardcore action every Friday night.
There's nothing like the gym at Six Flags Mall. Get in shape with kickboxing, taekwondo, pinnacle combat, judo, boxing, or even pro wrestling, personal training, state-of-the-art stationary equipment, and free weights.
You want to be in the wrestling business?
Yes.
You want to make your dream a reality?
Yes.
We're taking applications for wrestlers, referees, managers, and valets. Come down, give it a shot.
We're open 7 days a week. Experience life to the fullest at the gym. Call 817-652-1555 today.